Hey!
This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself, I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome on in. It's another edition of JJ and Alex right here, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen. JJ, what's up, man? Everything good? Everything okay?
Yeah, I'm not Tom Thibodeau.
Hey, listen.
I'm here. I'm working.
New York must just be an insufferable place to be a player, a coach, I've decided. Not just for the reasons of, like, the media being over the top, but, like, think about how little success that they've had and how that blown up success, how going to the Eastern Conference Finals was just such an amazing coup for this franchise, and that their level of whatever a standard of being good for a long time. Like, think about if real teams, and I'm saying that like that, and I mean it, if real franchises who were serious about winning all the time. And actually do, by the way. Like small market, medium market franchises, they do this all the time, and all they do is just grind to figure out a way to keep that thing going. And to grind to figure out a way to make sure that they can keep that success going. And going to the conference finals, by the way, one time, if you go twice and you fail and you're in some market, like, it's like, dude, you better figure this thing out. New York goes. I don't know a market, JJ, that is, and I'm trying to think if LA is like this, but LA's had too much success.
LA's a little more laid back.
Yeah, but they also have success. Like, how many banners do they hang up in LA for the Lakers? I hate the Lakers, but you can't deny what having Jerry West, at the head of your franchise for a long time has meant.
17 championships.
17 championships. The Lakers or the Knicks haven't won one in 50 something years, 51,
1973.
So 52 years. Yeah. They haven't won a title. And they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they're like, man, that was so awesome. That was so cool.
First time in 25
years. A quarter of a freaking century since they've been to that spot. They fire their coach because the players don't like how tough of a coach he is, whatever. Tom Thibodeau goes out. But I'm trying to think of a place that is more apathetic toward the losing side, because all they do, they just have gotten used to just complaining about not winning, right? That's their vibe.
Oh, yeah.
It feels very Cleveland Browns-esque.
If you don't win a championship in New York, no one cares.
No one cares.
But they bag on you. Like, the Knicks had a great season.
Yes.
They beat the defending champion Boston Celtics in a 7-game series. People in New York should be thrilled. Can you imagine if the Jazz had a team that made it as far as the Knicks did, but lost 4-1 in a Western Conference final? Would you be distraught in calling for the coach to be fired?
Oh, my goodness.
And saying this team sucks? Asking for the team to trade key players?
Oh, look, when you told me that there were 3 player what do they call those? The player called meetings?
Player-only meetings.
The player-only meeting.
Yes.
Oh, hey, Cat, shut the door behind you. Like, come on. And then guess what? From what we know, how often do the player-only meetings, like, work out? And if you have them too often, you're basically it's turned into a coup.
Well, there's
right?
only one person that's not in those meetings that's part of your group. Who is it?
Right. It's the coach.
Mr. Thibodeau.
And by the way, he's going, don't have player-only meetings. You guys, grow up. I'm the coach. He's very old school like that, right? And I don't know. I'm the kind of guy that I grew up in I like the old school coaches. I like the tough as nails guys.
Well, the players on that team didn't.
I know. And it seems like, do you remember how much people ripped on, think about when Quinn Snyder came and there were like a handful of players who were like, dude, we had to have practice for 2.5 hours today. Remember how people were
complaining? Trey Lyles.
It was Trey Lyles going, dude,
I like the 3-hour practice.
Why would I have a 3-hour practice? What's this guy running? It's like an NBA franchise. You know what I mean? Where have we gotten? And maybe I'm so out of touch that it's like, no, you can't treat players like that anymore. And when I say treat players, I don't know what that really means. Just like Tibbs is very gritty in the sense that he is a tough dude, but he also rubs people the very wrong way. And if it does, If Tibbs isn't winning,
Tibbs isn't for everybody.
No, and I get it. But you're saying if you didn't have Tom Thibodeau, you would have actually gone further? Is that what I'm hearing? That's what I'm hearing. Hey, and now that Tom Thibodeau's out of the picture, now this team can have success. I don't think so.
We've seen franchises. I'll throw out the Bulls and Lakers, both with Phil Jackson, having good coaches in place, but realizing they needed somebody else to take them to the next level. I can see that. And, the Knicks can fire whoever they want. Leon Rose can fire whoever he wants. But you see a team that makes it that far. You see the turmoil surrounding. It's like, how did this team get as far as they did when they're complaining about playing too many minutes?
Right. This behind-the-scenes thing.
3 players-only meetings or something to that effect. Bad communication within the team. I mean, it's pretty interesting that the second they're out of the playoffs, all this stuff comes to the surface. I'm sure that wasn't like a shock, but to this degree, how did the team survive and go through the playoff run they made with all this going on? I'm actually impressed. And who does that reflect well on? Tom Thibodeau, because he was the coach that was having to deal with all this drama.
So what I'm saying from all this is I started to think about it, and I was like, really, though? I mean, it's not like we care in Utah about Tom Thibodeau.
No, not at all. Don't care about the Knicks. Not
However, it should be an indicator as to the health of what this organization has going on, right? Could you imagine the turmoil of just firing Will Hardy because, you know what? We got to shake some things up a little bit. You know what I mean? Shaking things up for the Jazz organization. Look, if you start to get everything put together the way you want it, and then things even still melt down there, and there are obvious things here and there that make it very obvious that this is not working out, then guess what? You're going to see somebody get fired. But when you have these types of situations, only in New York can you have Tom Thibodeau being fired after taking the team further than they've ever been. Because no other city is as entitled than New York to go, we should have gone farther. We should have been better. We should make this thing work. I'm not privy to the conversations they have in the locker room, and maybe that's where the conversation should end, JJ. But at the same time, am I totally insane to wonder what on earth they're doing there in New York? I didn't hear what Stephen A. said about it. I don't know if he loved it or hated it because that's his team or whatever.
He did not love it.
But it is weird.
He ripped Leon Rose.
It's weird. And I guess you've got to make these organizational calls.
Did the Knicks hold a press conference? No, they did not.
Yeah, press release. Is
Leon
that all they
Rose
got?
Doesn't talk to the media.
No. And
That's, as the kids would say, a little sus.
And
if the guy making all your decisions isn't willing to do even a press conference for big events like this,
comes across as
you fire a coach after 5 years that took you to the Eastern Conference Finals. You got to show up and explain your decision to people. You have to.
I mean,
or not. I guess not in New York if you're Leon Rose.
And I feel like nowadays everybody does this move. Let's just ghost the media. We'll put it out on social media. That's the new media.
They should have fired him at 4:45 on a Friday.
You know what? That wouldn't be fun.
Memorial Day weekend.
That wouldn't be fun though either. Should
have fired him before the series was over.
This is very New York. Hey, just roll it out right now. Send the press release. Hit send, and we'll see what happens. And the fallout has been this. Hey, by the way, welcome to our program. Thanks for being with us today. Our show brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar the perfect protein bar. Let's keep this thing going. I want to have a conversation as it kind of relates to even some of the things that we saw the moving parts that go along with everything that has to do with a big move like the firing of a coach. But it's not just the firing of the coach. It's also looking around that locker room apparently in New York and wanting to make some changes there too. So let's get to the cut. We'll jump in right here.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Trajan Wealth brings you this portion of the program. All your trusted local needs in retirement with the fiduciaries at Trajan Wealth. TRAJANwealth.com. They're showing Thibodeau yelling at Josh Hart, and I'm like, Josh Hart needs to get yelled at, by the way. It's the guy who orders DoorDash during the press conferences and then eats the DoorDash during the press conferences too. That was another one that he did.
Why you got to be mad about that?
No, I love it. I love a chicken.
He needs to yell at Karl Anthony Towns about this lack of defense.
I love a chicken wing as much as anybody.
Karl Anthony Towns will not be a Knick next year.
That's where I wanted to go next because we've wondered what the laughable situation is going to be in Phoenix with this whole Kevin Durant situation and trying to dump that contract. And honestly, immediately the rumors start to swirl. And again, this is so much a New York thing, too, where they go, well, I don't like this situation with Cat. Can we get Kevin Durant? Can we get one of the best players in this generation? Just send him our way. And you know what? The rumors are that they would be willing to give up Cat. And would it be a straight across situation there? What are we talking about?
I'd have to get the trade machine out, but the money might work there.
The money might work, but also you might actually see the Knicks having to send even, a pick or two here or there. I don't even know if they have any more picks.
The Knicks have picks. The Suns do not. But the Suns want to regain their draft capital, apparently. And they think it's just that easy. Oh, we traded all our picks. Now we want them back, please.
Hey, can you we'll give you KD. Can we get the 10th pick? Can you imagine Kevin Durant? I know he's not in his prime. Give us all our
picks. We missed them.
I know Kevin Durant's not in his prime.
No.
But I think that this is actually a brilliant move if they were to get rid of Cat. Kevin Durant coming back to New York, playing for the other team in New York. And if you get 2 solid years out of KD, Jalen Brunson, KD, Josh Hart, who else on that team? Hartenstein,
Mikal Bridges.
Mikal Bridges, who's struggled.
Played
obviously.
Too many minutes. OG Anunoby. They've got a lot of talent on that roster.
So when you start to name off the names, then I go, I don't hate that. And by the way, Cat wasn't a fit, it felt like, right? Cat was not a fit. And I don't know if it was because he was playing so poorly or what. But I don't know if it, obviously him not being a fit is one thing.
Straight across works. Cat makes 49.2. Kevin Durant 51.1.
Right.
You don't even need to throw in any draft capital.
There you go.
Although I think the Suns would like a pick. The Knicks have picks.
Yeah.
Some of them are not their own. For the first time in a long time, the Knicks have picks.
Well, the Mikal Bridges thing by itself saw him go pick poor for a while.
It makes sense. It makes total sense.
I just wonder. I don't hate it at all. I like that idea. And again, what do you need from KD? You need 2 good years. You need 2.
That's all he has left on his contract.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you're going to get 2 decent years out of the guy. He's going to be energized to not be in a place where he's going to be totally forgotten.
He doesn't have to have the ball all the time. Jalen Brunson can still do his thing.
Yes.
You got a lot of nice pieces that are complementary on that roster. I know Kevin Durant, everybody wants to put Kevin Durant in a trade machine. That's one that actually makes a lot of sense to me.
Let me fast forward you to next season, okay? And the reigning champion Oklahoma City Thunder mow through the West again and put themselves in the Western Conference Finals. They get the W. They get to the NBA Finals again to be matched up against the guy who took them to the 2012 NBA Finals, Kevin Durant.
That would be cool.
That'd be fun.
That'd be great.
I would love that.
The Thunder will be there, I'm sure. The Knicks, I don't know.
No, I don't know if making a move like that. The health of Kevin Durant is like always in question at this point. Because how old is KD? 37, 38? In my mind, he's 42 because that's the way it's felt like he's 36 or 37 in the last 3 years. But I think that's what he actually is now.
He's 36.
Yeah. And it's an old 36 because
he will be 37 when next season begins.
What injuries have piled up in his career?
The Achilles in the finals is the one that really stands out.
Was tough. And he just has never looked like a guy who's, it always looks like he was on the verge of tearing an ACL or an Achilles
let me say this,
anyway.
though. I mean, is Kevin Durant the explosive, energetic player he once was? Probably not, but 26.6 points per game last year, 6 rebounds, 4.2 assists, shot the ball well.
As an afterthought, because it barely felt like that they were.
He was on a bad team,
and they were not interested.
He's one of the reasons why they were bad, right? He has to take responsibility for the failure in Phoenix. So
I was hearing Jake and Ben. I don't know if it was one of their promos or something, but they talked about like the flawed player, right? It's like don't pick up a flawed, expensive player. And does KD fall in that category of way too expensive and way too flawed? That you would have to that you go out and Karl Anthony Towns, who's 26 or 27 or whatever it is now, like that guy is still supposedly.
But he's also flawed.
Doesn't play defense.
Former number one pick.
Yes.
Who's an exceptional offensive talent.
Yeah, four-tool guy. The fifth one is
40% three-point shooting center.
Yeah.
But he can't defend a lick. And you wonder, all those years in Minnesota, they were bad. As soon as he leaves, or once they bring in other guys, they're good. As soon as he's not the best player on that Timberwolves team, they're good. I think you really have to be concerned about that. And he wasn't the best player on the Knicks. And in fact, if you go through the playoffs, he had moments for sure. That game they beat the Pacers in, when they were down 20, and he literally by himself brought them back into that game. He has that ability offensively, but it's just not consistent enough, and the defense really hurts you. And I think there's criticism, fair or not, that he just hasn't been a winner as an NBA player, at least as a number one, which is what he wants. That's what he's being paid like. He makes $49 million a year. You expect him to be a number one. And if he was traded to the Suns and they decide to keep Devin Booker, then that's your new pair moving forward. Similar in age, they're both Kentucky guys. It makes a lot of sense, right? This trade makes sense. And I think it would make sense for the Knicks, for Kevin Durant to go back to New York.
Yeah.
And it would make sense for Karl Anthony Towns to go somewhere where there's just not as much pressure and where he doesn't have to be number one. Devin Booker's the number one guy in Phoenix.
Yep. What's his is Bradley Beal
still there?
Is he still with us? Is he still with us in the NBA?
Still with us?
I just remember, because you think of a guy
he's probably washed as an NBA player, but he's not anywhere near death.
No, I know. But I'm just saying, is he still in the league? The guy's the most overpaid non-contributor, I feel like, or non-factor person. When you talk about...
He doesn't deserve a no-trade clause. There's no doubt about that.
Kevin Durant...
He had 17 points per game last year, but he didn't play a lot.
He probably woke up and maybe an agent called him, or maybe a friend had been like, New York ? And then I bet he probably woke up with a little bit more pep in his step than we've seen out of Kevin Durant in a while. You know why? Because this guy won titles, it feels like 100 years ago now, right? You think about on those Golden State teams and you go, oh, and did he win 2 titles then with them? He won 2. He won 2 of the 4. He won 2 of the 4 titles, and he wins those 2 titles. But it feels like it was so long ago. And for him to be able to, because he's only ever cared about the playing part, right? He's a super weird dude to try to crack off the court. He's not exceptionally fun with the media. He is a social media guy, even though he pretends like he's not. And I'll tell you,
he's sneaky fun with the media. He plays the antagonist a little bit.
I don't even care kind of attitude.
But he does a pretty good job, actually.
Well, I think that
but you're right. He's a tough nut to crack. He's an odd dude. There's no doubt about that.
This is a guy who played already in New York, right? So when you think about that stretch with the Nets, which was a massive fail.
Oh, for sure.
This could turn into something that it would be the last moment in his career where he could really legitimately talk about being in the conference semifinals, the conference finals in the East, and maybe even a push to the NBA Finals. That road to the NBA Finals in the East next year is going to be really difficult because the Cavaliers are going to have a massive chip on their shoulder. They're going to have a lot of talent still in that locker room, and probably not the same injuries that we saw this year that cracked them so badly in the playoffs. And if you think the Celtics are going away anytime soon, I don't think that's the case either. They did just lose Austin Ainge in the front office,
though, right? What do the Celtics look like? I mean, you look at the East. I'm glad you brought it up because it's really an interesting conversation. The East is interesting because it's so wide open.
We already dismissed the Indiana Pacers next year, by the way.
No, not at all. Maybe this is the start of something.
Get those guys out of here.
Maybe this is the start of something with them. But all of a sudden, because Jason Tatum's out, it's like, oh, if you're the Bucks, what do you do? Does that give you pause? Wait a minute. Maybe we could put something together here. We don't have Damian Lillard, but maybe we're still in this. Maybe with Giannis, if we keep him, we still got a shot at this. If you're the Pistons, you're like, hey, we're the neck. We are next. We've got one of the best young ball handlers in the league. We got a number one guy in Cade Cunningham. We've got an alpha. We're ready to go.
They look at
You're
Oklahoma
the
City
Magic,
right? They look at the Oklahoma City Thunder and they go, that's us. You know
Orlando
what I mean?
Magic played the Celtics tough.
They're on the way up.
That's a young team. If they can stay healthy and have a better record in the regular season, maybe they put themselves in a better position.
You've only got a small window while you have both Wagners on your roster. You've got to take advantage.
You've got to take advantage of full Wagners.
Full Wagners.
The Sixers.
Oh, see now, That's a crazy thing because they get a number 3 pick and they're already a team that like sort of did this weird mail it in after I don't know how. And Paul George
it wasn't weird. They would have lost their pick had they not finished if they had been less than 7.
Yeah. So I think
if they had not had a pick between 1 and 7.
It's an interesting thought because Philadelphia could immediately get better again.
Oh, for sure.
They'll screw it up somehow. Daryl Morey find a way to screw it up somehow. But it is now the East looks like. I mean, and I'm watching a promo on TV right now. They're showing the Pacers and the Thunder with a finals promo on TV, and you're like, man, that Pacers team, I don't hate it. Like for a long-term situation,
they're good.
But the Knicks could immediately make themselves. I think if KD gets on that team, and I know maybe I'm dissing Cat too much on this, and maybe I'm giving KD too much credit.
Cat's not a good fit there. They already had Mitchell Robinson at center. I think this makes so much sense for everybody involved.
It's the only trade we've heard with KD's name mentioned where we go, you know what?
That makes sense.
That makes sense. And so
going to the Rockets doesn't make sense to me outside of the numbers, or where all these other places. They're trying to shove a superstar, an old superstar in San Antonio. Why? Why do the Spurs have to do that? They don't.
You know what the wildest rumor was that I read today? The possibility of somehow figuring out how to get Rudy Gobert to New York to play defense.
That tells you how bad. That's all you need to know about the situation with Cat.
Chris Herring wrote it up for ESPN. Someone like Mitchell Robinson could give Towns a back end defender more along the lines of someone like Rudy Gobert, who also could be an interesting prospect if you could make the numbers work. The numbers don't work for Rudy Gobert ever going to New York. Okay. Oh, here comes the trade machine. Here comes JJ with the trade machine. We got to take a break. We'll come back. We've got more to go around the corner. When we return, we're going to chat a little bit about. I'm interested in so many things today, but the Austin Ainge. He was on with DJ and PK today. I got to hear chunks of this while it was going on live. I was just. No, it's not a good trade.
You got to throw in another player. The Wolves would have to throw another player.
We had to throw in you'd have to throw in a lot of players, right? The T-Wolves would have to throw in more players?
Yes, that's how expensive Karl Anthony Towns is. As much money as Rudy Gobert makes.
I was going to say, I thought it was going to be off by $10 million.
Rudy makes 43 per, Towns 49.2.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You know what? You trade him back to Minnesota again. It's not even him. It's not even. Look, he sees what they're doing there. He wants to get back to that. He wants to hang out with Chris Finch again. Missed that whole situation. Some stability. Somebody was pointing out, they're like, listen to Karl Anthony Towns and his fake New York accent during all these interviews. That was the new one. Oh. Is they're pointing out his fake New York accent, and you're like, come on, let this kid play basketball and just try to like the city that he's in. Come on, can't you just like him? All right. When we come back, we've got a conversation to have about Austin Ainge and some of the things that he said. The tanking question from yesterday, which was followed up with a very terse response, ended up being the thing that blew up so much overnight after we heard it yesterday. So a couple of things in there. They asked him about the tanking situation. They asked him about the protected pick impact and how that's going to go for this season. So we'll listen to those next. Stay right here with us. More to go on a Tuesday edition of the program, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest name.
You're locked into JJ and Alex. With the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. Presented by G2G Bars. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I was excited to see a playlist that was suggested to me by Apple this weekend, and offended at the same time. It was like, hey, I thought this was a joke because my kid had mentioned this to me, like, hey, we're in the car, and my oldest was like, hey, let's listen to this, because he knows that he likes to listen to this type of music. And then he goes, hey, put it on this playlist, and I didn't think much of it. But it's a literal – I thought he made it. You know, back in the day, JJ, we had to hustle and make our own playlists, all right?
We made our own mixtapes.
Absolutely.
It was a lot of work.
It was not easy to –
You had to push two buttons at once.
It was not easy to press record on those things, all right? And so Apple Music has an album called Dad Rock. And I was like, it just has a baseball hat on.
Screw you, Apple.
I put a baseball.
Baseball
I
hat?
know.
Look at you.
I know. I'm wearing a freaking hat because
what
you know
would
what?
I be doing if I wasn't wearing a suit and tie?
They nailed it.
I'd be wearing a hat.
They nailed it. They're like, this guy's probably a little bit overweight, maybe wearing a hat. You'd like this playlist. And I was like, fine. I like begrudgingly pressed
You
play
look
on
like
it.
you're 45 or older.
Fine.
Here's some grunge rock.
I'll listen. Dad rock. I thought my kid mentioned it. He goes, yeah, he's like, hey, listen to this. It's dad rock. And I was like, okay. And it was
Kurt Cobain rolling over in his grave right now.
well, that was the thing. It was like Pearl Jam, Nirvana. There was definitely
mocking his art and calling it dad rock.
There was definitely a what was the one that came on that I skipped? What was it? Third Eye Blind came on. I said, nah, I'm out. I can't do it. There's some
that wouldn't make my list.
Third Eye Blind feels like a very specific area in my life, like time frame. I know where I was when I was listening to it.
That doesn't make the cut for me.
I don't like it. I don't like it though.
Keep it out of my dad playlist.
My dad show me with just a generic hat on. Jeez, ridiculous. The generic hat, by the way, is like the character that was always. Wasn't Stanley Tucci like a terrorist in a movie with a hat on? Just a generic hat. It's like a gray hat. That's how you knew he was the bad guy.
Remember Rob Lowe and the, what was it, an NFL hat?
Oh, yeah. The NFL hat, yes.
Who wears an NFL hat?
No, nobody.
Who?
Just Roger Goodell's kids. All right.
Always repping the shield.
Let me see here. We've got some sound to play from Austin Ainge, who joined DJ and PK today. And it was a very interesting moment yesterday when the question was rolled out about, kind of tiptoeing around the T word, right?
Don't say it. That is not what the Jazz did.
Right, and you certainly aren't going to say it to the brand new executive. But Austin Ainge was asked about it on DJ and PK today about the tanking question, and here's what he had to say about it yesterday.
And I think we have to keep all of those different ways on the table. The optionality, we have to find value, and we have to make smart moves. And so I don't know how it'll play out, to be honest. It's still too early. We'll have to see what opportunities present themselves to us. But if you go back to the question that was asked before that soundbite, it was asked in a specific way, and I responded to that. We're gonna fight to the end. We're gonna let whatever group we end up with fight, and we're gonna let Will Hardy fight and try to win and improve, and we're gonna do everything we can every night. So that's kind of the question I was answering.
Didn't appreciate the tone, I guess, of the question. If you go back and listen to the question, I was answering that question. That's why it came out that way, because none of these guys want to come across as somebody who would even entertain that. You talk about people being Jazz DNA, right? They've talked about that before.
Yeah.
There's a behavior that's Jazz DNA too, and losing basketball games has never felt it's felt more off-brand for this franchise than any of the other ones that we know about in the league. I can't think of another team that it would be more strange to just tank games than the Utah Jazz. One, because we haven't been used to it here. Two, because of the ownership that has had a hold of this franchise, the last two groups of ownership. Like, it just doesn't, they're too competitive. It comes across, it's not the way they do business. And which I appreciate, right? And I think the fans appreciate. That's why it makes it so hard, right? And then what did Ben Anderson tell us yesterday? The way he put it, he goes, to purposefully do it or something along those lines. It was like,
engineering.
Yeah,
losses,
it was basically
manipulating.
And it was like doing it on purpose versus not doing it on purpose, and that's really what you're coming down to. The reality is the team won't have to do much to lose a lot of games next year because the roster is not going to be a playoff roster. It's not going to be even bottom third roster. It's going to be the bottom of the West type of a roster. Again,
well, we don't know.
I just can't imagine that it would turn around in 1 year.
Well, you're right in that. Right? What's the expectation?
I don't know.
What could the Jazz
at this point,
possibly do this offseason to change that? Not much. It's more likely that they would move a lot of guys out, veteran players, for more assets to build for the future. I'm going to be really fascinated because Austin Ainge is going to have a major stamp in this offseason, right? He was brought in now for a reason. Not brought in September. He was brought in now to put his stamp on this and help the Jazz move this forward, whatever this is right now.
Yeah.
And I don't think we know, and I don't think they know. It's an evolving thing. But that's the problem, is fans don't know. And this is where the Jazz, this is where it gets tough for them. Because I think they're doing the right thing. Where in today's NBA, you can't be in the middle. Can you? Look at the standings. Do you want to be the Bulls? Do you want to be the Hawks? Look at the Hawks. The Hawks have a massive payroll. They're paying Trae Young big money. They can't even win a play-in game. They hired Quinn Snyder. Quinn Snyder's not a rebuild coach. He's a win-now coach.
No. Nope.
Where are they going? Where are the Miami Heat? What future do the Miami Heat have? Right? So you start looking at some of these teams. I'll throw the Clippers out there. Where are the Clippers? They're not anywhere close to winning anything right now. The Grizzlies kind of feel like that. The Kings definitely. The Mavericks just won the lottery. Before that, I was like, what are they doing? But there's a good handful of teams in this league where you're not really sure where they're at or what's the next step or what they're doing. And they're kind of stuck because they don't have any assets to do anything. That's not the Jazz. And they made the right decision when they did to move on from Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. And I think it's hard for some Jazz fans still to watch those players go on other teams and win playoff series. Something that they were struggling to do when they left.
Yeah.
So, but my point is they doing the right thing, but how patient can fans be, and is the messaging that you're putting together, the message you're sending to your fans who come watch you and come buy the jerseys and pay the tickets to go to the games, even though that's not as important as television money, but it does matter.
Yeah. Well,
I don't even want to call it a message. The bond between the fans and the team, I think, is fragile in this market right now.
And
agree?
And if you think that the hockey team
how are
didn't
you
actually
handling that relationship? How is this organization handling that relationship? I don't know.
I'm telling you,
we talk to fans all the time,
and they've
frustrated. About had it.
Yeah, and it's actually a level of apathy that's tough to swallow.
It is.
Right?
It's not anger; it's apathy.
Right, and it's.
I'm going to watch hockey.
That's exactly right. What the Mammoth did this year was actually kind of add on to the angst that fans have had as Jazz fans, right? And I don't know what moves they could make running up to, like, what would be something that you go, you know what, they are big game hunting. They are trying their darndest to figure this thing out. It's not like this is a group of a bunch of low IQ basketball people.
Do you want Karl Anthony Towns to be your face of your franchise? Kevin Durant's too old. Keep going down a list of guys that look like they're available out there.
That would actually be available.
No, I think there's more players available now than there's been in quite some time. I mean, we just saw Luka Doncic traded, so anything is possible, right? But I don't know what that fit is for the Jazz. So back to where you originally started is how bad are the Jazz going to be? They have to be really bad, and they got to make changes to their roster to get that bad. Because if they keep Colin Sexton and Lauri Markkanen and some of these other guys, some of these veteran players, Jordan Clarkson, if they keep them on the roster, they're not going to be good enough to make the playoffs, but they might be so good that they have to convey that pick, and that would be a disaster for the Jazz next year.
Yep.
Remember, that's important to remember. Conveying that pick. If they have to convey that pick, that could be if it's like 9 or 10, that could be a really good player in next year's draft. You want to avoid that? So you either want to be all in on a playoff run or you want to be bottom 8.
Yeah, it's and then
That's hard.
And then you get into a prospect of.
But again, back to the original question that got all this started is, don't you have to manufacture that too?
Yeah. But I think
you got to either make trades in the offseason or you're going to have to manipulate minutes during the regular season. What if that team's too good and you end up being, what if you drop 2 spots in the lottery and you end up having to convey it? That would be a disaster.
I think the reality is that you're actually going to have to manufacture it less next year. Unfortunately, it's like legitimate bad, right? Well, I think when we did our pre-draft show, didn't DJ, he goes, this is more of a 35-win team that won 15. Was it 15 or 17? 17. This was a 35-win team that won 17. And that's obviously also up for speculation and up for, well, really, is that the reality of it? And I'm telling you, next year it's going to be a 17 to 20 win team, and they will be that level.
So you believe
of
they're
talent.
going to ship out a number of veteran players in the offseason? Because that's what they would have to do.
It's not a number. It's not really even a number. It's really one big one. And I think if Lauri Markkanen ends up being shipped off, which I could totally see happening, then, then who cares about, if the Jordan Clarksons or the John Collinses? After that, what veterans are we talking about? We're not really – what other people –
Colin Sexton's a big piece there.
Sexton would be a big piece.
That you would have to move because that dude plays hard.
Sexton and Markkanen are, I think, legitimately on the table, right?
Everybody is.
Everybody is. Maybe minus Walker. But we'll see. Next thing that was brought up in DJ and PK was he was specifically asked, Austin Ainge was specifically asked about the protected pick and how that's going to have an impact on this year. You brought it up, and obviously you cannot convey that pick. Here's what he said.
It's a huge factor, but there are many other factors to consider, right? The toll it takes on a team and an organization to only think about that pick, right? The effect it has on all the other moves and decisions you make. So there are a lot of other things to consider besides the pick. The pick is really important, and obviously no one wants to just give away first-round picks, but there are a lot of other things to consider, and that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, they're going to hustle. They're going to figure it out.
One thing I want to note in what he said there is the toll. Austin Ainge has been on the job for a day, less than 24 hours, and he already understands that there is a price to pay for this. This is not fun. And we talk about it from a media perspective. We talk to a lot of fans. How hard has this been on the players on this roster? How hard is it for a Lauri Markkanen who is playing at an all-star level, who wants to win, to have to endure last season? How hard was it for Walker Kessler, who had an amazing third season, absolutely established himself as a top 15 center in this league? How hard was it for him? How hard is it for some of those rookies to go out there and get clobbered every night? It can't be fun. And how do you keep a positive culture, in the midst of the losing?
Yeah.
That's all tricky. So Austin Ainge gets it, that you're going to have to navigate that very carefully because you do not want this to take a toll on those players. And David Locke mentioned this when he was talking to Hans and Scotty in the 2 o'clock hour. You have to give your players hope. Not just fans, not just everybody that watches. You have to give your players and your organization hope. And how does Utah do that this offseason? How do they do that moving forward? Because if they do what they did again last year, and the question that he was asked in the press conference was fair. Are you planning on doing that again? They can't.
Yeah.
Because you can't keep doing that every year because pretty soon you become one of the worst franchises in the NBA. And we've seen over the years that you can get stuck in that mode.
Yep. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We have a Would You Rather right around the corner. It's it's one of my more weird ones. So good luck. I mean, the good thing about the Would You Rather is it's all subjective, right? I'm not gonna come back at you, and no, I will. If you make a bad decision, I'll come at you. But it's gonna be an interesting one. It has to do with nicknames. So just stay right here. More to go right around the corner. 97.5 VKSL Sports Zone.
Listen, everybody. Real life hypotheticals to get your brain churning. As JJ and Alex ask, would you rather?
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 VKSL Sports Zone. Every Wednesday is a Win Ticket Wednesday right here on your dial. A Win Ticket Wednesday this week. Tomorrow, we're going to be giving away tickets to Aerofest with Styx. Kevin Cronin, who's the former lead singer of REO Speedwagon, and Don Felder, who was also of the Eagles fame. That's going to be June 11th at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. Tickets are on sale now, but win tickets tomorrow all across the station. Just listen to the KSL Sports Zone all day long.
So not REO Speedwagon, not the Eagles, but one member of those bands is showing up to do what exactly?
And guess what? Styx is going to be there too. Oh, they're going to perform.
Is that the full sticks or?
These days, I have no idea what the makeups of the bands are anymore. You know what I mean?
I mean, it'd be pretty cool to hear Styx play Renegade.
Yeah. Okay.
Sweet.
Obviously, Styx is still with us.
From the control room.
Obviously, Styx is still with us. All right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be advertising a concert. How dare you? All right? Let me see here.
Tommy Shaw is still with us. Is that what you're asking?
Is that what you're asking? If you would have, like,
Lead
if your
singer
life
of Styx.
depended on it, could you have named one member of the band, Alex, our producer? No, you would have been murdered. You would have been killed. Okay. I was just wondering. JJ, Cal Rowley, who's having a heck of a season for my Seattle Mariners. I don't know if you know this.
Not paying any attention.
He leads.
Sorry.
Will you stop? Will you stop?
You lost me at Mariners.
No, listen. He and Shohei Ohtani are tied for the most home runs in the league. Don't do your petty fake clap, okay? But don't worry, because I had forgotten about this, but they kept bringing it up because do you know what his nickname is? Big Dumper.
Big Dumper.
His nickname is Big Dumper. All right.
Okay.
Now, I thought.
And why might that be?
I thought, hey, you know what? Not a good look if you're trying to be, because somebody brought up like he should be in the conversation of MVP. Aaron Judge, it's his award to lose this year. He's batting almost 400. He's at like 393. He has 21 home runs compared to Ohtani and Raleigh's 23. He has, I think, second or has the most. He has the most hits in the league. He has almost the most RBI. He's legitimately having an insane year, and that's with Shohei Ohtani, who has obviously insane years.
Aaron Judge hitting 391 while hitting 21 home runs.
Not bad.
Is insane.
Not bad for a guy who's 6'7", 285, right?
Right.
So he goes in. But Big Dumper is having a heck of a year. Okay, he's a great defensive catcher. It's awesome. However, I will say this. I've pulled up a list of the worst nicknames in sports history.
Wow.
Yes. And you tell me.
Worse than Big Dumper.
Worse than Big Dumper. Oh, yeah. Well, because there are a lot of bad ones out there. All right. So I'm going to just start it off. I found a list of the worst in the history of nicknames. Now, do you remember? It never took, but people tried to call him this periodically. So Big Dumper or the Big Fundamental? Tim Duncan.
Big Dumper is at least funny. The Big Fundamental is the most boring.
Big Fundamental matches his freaking game, though, right?
The most boring nickname for the most boring superstar of my lifetime.
Ever. Right. Best player to never be remembered ever again. Like half the people, like if you tell my kid, hey, blah, 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 Tim Duncan, he's like, who's that? I'm like, oh, probably the best power forward in the history of the game.
Yeah, but if you put a Tim Duncan highlight reel on YouTube, it'd have like 15 views.
It'd be a lot of baby hooks, all right?
Wow, 15-foot jumper off the glass.
11 feet from the baseline. Wow. Okay. So so you chose Big Fundamental or Big Dumper?
No, I'm still with Big Dumper.
Big Dumper or Big Donkey?
Big Donkey.
Yeah, Adam Dunn.
That's right.
Was known as the
Cincinnati
Big Donkey.
Reds. Big Donkey. We went from Dumper to Donkey.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but Coco Crisp, his real name isn't Coco Crisp. It's Covelli Coco Crisp. So, Big Donkey or Coco Crisp?
Still Big Donkey.
Big Donkey or... the mailman made the list with a bad nickname.
It is a terrible pun.
It is bad. It is bad.
He's the mailman because
it's a bad
he
dad
delivers.
Joke. Yes, it's a bad dad joke. So mailman or Big Donkey?
Big Donkey's better than the mailman.
Big Donkey or the hick from French Lick? Like that is bad. Look at
the
Alex's
hick from
face.
French Lick.
Hold on. Do you know who the hick from French Lick is?
You don't? He's one of the greatest basketball players of all time.
It's Larry freaking Bird, my guy.
He's from French Lick, Indiana.
Nah, he's from French. But the hick from French Lick is not. Well, yeah, because people weren't trying to say it out there very often. I don't think we mentioned it very much, right? How about?
So you got a honky and a donkey. I like it.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you got the hick from French Lick. All right. So did you go with the hick?
Yeah,
from
let's go with the hick from French Lick.
So the Hick from French Lick or the Flying Tomato. Do you know who the Flying Tomato is?
I do know who the Flying Tomato is.
Worst.
You don't know?
This is like your generation, guy.
Snowboarder.
Shaun White. Come on.
That's his nickname?
Oh, yeah.
The Flying Tomato.
It's not a good nickname. That's why it's on the list of worst nicknames. But that's where it is. Oh, okay. Now this one, we're skipping that one. That's not good. You don't want to be called any of those things. Oh, do you remember? Okay.
Well, we did read Big Dumper over the air.
Well, Big Dumper is his real nickname.
Well, those are real nicknames, too. Why
Cal
can't you say
Raleigh,
those?
Because there are children listening. Alex, our producer, was one of them.
Nate Dowdle's in the room, too.
Well, Nate's in there. That doesn't help either. There's lots of, now hold on a minute. Did you know that Icky Wood's actual name was Elbert?
Oh, sure.
I did not know it was Elbert.
What, he
I just thought it was Icky Woods.
thought his mom named him Icky?
Icky, yeah, man.
Of course that's a nickname.
Okay. Do you remember Vinny Microwave Johnson?
Oh, yeah.
So the Microwave or the Hick from French Lick?
The Hick from French Lick.
Okay.
The Microwave makes sense.
All right. The Microwave makes sense. Oh, boy. Okay. There's some. These are all good ones. These are all really good ones.
It's still tough to beat Big Dumper, though.
Big Dumper is
but
like
Big Donkey did it.
But
for
I'm
him.
telling you right now, you're having a good season in baseball, and your nickname is Big Dumper. We can't make you the MVP of the league.
It's tough, man. You're gonna have to change that.
And plus, the narrative of Major League Baseball is we will allow two players to be the MVP of the league.
We're talking about Aaron Judge. We took All Rise,
and
right?
yes, and Aaron
Judge.
Judge and Shohei Ohtani. Those are the only names that Major League Baseball right now want to pimp. They do not want to talk about a guy named Big Dumper, even though he's hitting home run after home run.
Sorry, Cal.
He's
Raleigh.
he's also very much a catcher, and that is he's batting like 250. So 250, 23 home runs.
Wait a minute. So
yeah, that's
he bats
a very
250, and Mariners fans want him to be getting MVP consideration.
23 homers. He and Shohei have the same amount. All right,
get out of here.
We'll take a break. We'll come back. We got more to go right on the corner. When we return, what do we have here? Oh my goodness. We're going to chat about we got all sorts of things. We haven't been able to play the Alex Jensen, Kevin Young conversations from last week at the Big 12 Business Day. So we'll bring that up next. Stay right here with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen. Thanks for being with us on the program. Our show is always brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar the perfect protein bar. Micah Parsons is already seeking another contract extension. Doesn't it seem like Micah Parsons and Dak Prescott, didn't everybody already get paid? I thought everybody already got paid.
Yet. CeeDee Lamb did.
Oh, my gosh.
Now it's Micah's turn.
To be a Cowboys fan, I saw on Instagram the other day this lady does this whole thing. Is like, I'll cover up any tattoo for like $400, and I don't care how big it is, where it is in your body. I will cover it up, $400. Boom, flat rate. This guy had, his entire back was a Cowboys helmet, and it said Dallas above it and Cowboys underneath it. And she goes, I said $400, I meant it. And this guy, she's like, so why are you getting it removed? He's like, I can't anymore, man. I can't. And I was like, oh.
Getting emotional.
Every fan knows that feeling, but come on. Getting the tattoo covered up, removed? Come on, man. You got to buy in. You got to show your support, your loyalty. Let's jump in on this conversation here. We've got Matt Baiamonte, who is one of our BYU insiders for KSLSports.com. He also hosts Cougar Sports Saturday with Mitch Harper every Saturday on KSL News Radio. And now with the Big 12 meetings now in the books and a week to digest the goings on there down in Orlando, Matt's going to join us. Let's jump in right here. It's the cut, top of the hour. Let's do it.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And, of course, this portion of the show brought to you by an amazing selection of Kia, Subaru, Chevy, Jeep, Dodge, or Ram. It's your Doug Smith family of dealerships in American Fork, Spanish Fork, and now in Linden as well. You can find the Kia dealership there. Matt Baiamonte joining us on the program. Matt, what's going on, man?
Hey, that rejoin was not appropriate because that's not the right jump song now that BYU and Wisconsin announced a scheduling agreement. We got to work. We got to work on that.
Yeah, I get it. No, you know what? Now that I think about it, the Cypress Hill reference would have been more appropriate considering
that's not even the right one either.
I thought
We're
that's
way
what it was.
off the rails,
Who
man.
Who was it?
House of Pain.
Oh, it is House of Pain.
Jump around.
Thank you,
that's
JJ.
right. All right,
now,
fine.
I don't know whether they do jump around at the basketball
No, I was going to say,
which is kind of ironic that they do it at the football games, not the basketball
Have you been
games.
in Camp Randall when they do?
For whatever reason, I missed all the Wisconsin trips. I never experienced
I did one, and it's actually terrifying because the entire press box is bouncing. And you're like, when was this built? And they're like, 1919. You're like, but it got updated in 1971. You're good. And you're like, it's just bouncing up and down. Ah, yes.
I'm sure it's earthquake safe in Wisconsin.
Matt Baiamonte. Matt, I want to ask about the basketball side of things because Wisconsin got signed up, obviously. This is what makes basketball so much more exciting from the scheduling standpoint. Now, obviously, it makes sense because when you have all those games that you're filling up a non-conference schedule with, you can be very flexible, and that's what they are. And you can tell the direction of your program by what teams are willing to play you, what teams are willing to come to Delta Center, which is what Wisconsin has signed up to do. The UConn deal at TD Garden next year is phenomenal. BYU's got an insane matchup with non-conference teams, and that only bodes well. And by the way, again, this is the direction we want football to go, where we don't worry so much about, but what's your schedule going to look like? Or what's your record going to be in non-conference? You want to win those games, but you want to play the best in the land.
I love that college basketball encourages that. And Kevin Young, from his first season at BYU, he was outspoken about how that non-conference schedule, it was hurtful because they weren't able to kind of identify some of the things to fix. Now, they figured big and turn things around, but this type of schedule that they put together now, I think, will challenge them appropriately, and it provides them an opportunity that they have never had before, which is if you can even go 50-50 in some of these big games, that could boost you up a seed line or two because you have this great strength of schedule. You would have tremendous quality wins, assuming you can maybe get Villanova to start the year. Maybe you split the trips to the East Coast between Clemson and UConn. You get a few of these games, it absolutely is going to help them with seeding. It's going to help them with perception. And I just love that Kevin Young is embracing that. And I love that college basketball, to your point, Alex, rewards that. Because even if they only were to win one, you would look at them and say, good for you for making those trips and playing them, rather than, well, you didn't win, so we're not gonna let you into the tournament. So I think these games are great. It's going to keep BYU relevant all season long, and then of course they've got a roster to stay relevant all season. But they're going to be appropriately challenged, and that can only help them develop the chemistry they'll need to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament.
Villanova, Clemson, UConn, Wisconsin, and two of these three, Miami, Georgetown, Dayton, all great programs, historic programs. Has BYU ever played a schedule this ambitious when you combine it with what they do have to go through in the Big 12?
Oh, no. There's nothing that's even close to this. And it's going to be a challenge for sure. There's a lot of travel. There's a lot of road games. Even that Wisconsin game, it's not at the Marriott Center. They don't have any great teams coming to the Marriott Center. And I think that will be the next step for this program. If they can continue to win and continue to recruit at a high level, maybe they can start to turn some of these neutral games into home and homes. That would be preferred. The Marriott Center, I do think, is getting some respect as a incredibly difficult place to play, and I think that plays a role. But this is by far the most ambitious schedule. When you look at some of the great teams, JJ, that BYU's had, and look, they've had a lot of good teams. They haven't had a lot of great teams. And I think maybe the last great team that BYU had was that Jimmer Fredette senior season team. They didn't come close to the schedule. They had a UCLA in there, but by and large, they did not test themselves like this. And if BYU can split these games, you referenced a phenomenal non-conference schedule. Let's say you go 4-3 in these games, meaning you would have to win your opening game in the NTE and still get another quality opponent after that. But if you go 4-3, a lot of these are going to be quad one. That's going to look great for your resume. It's going to look great for strength of schedule rankings, net rankings, and then that would set you up for maybe one of the highest seeds that BYU could have ever hoped to dream of getting in the NCAA tournament. Look, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Like, they got to win games. They have to stay healthy, of course, but teams that make deep runs, like if you look at that Florida team from last year that won the national championship, even Houston, these teams don't play cake non-conference schedules. They really test themselves because you have to build that resume, and BYU is setting themselves up nicely with this non-conference schedule. It's going to be challenging, but they have a great roster to do this. You have top-end talent. You have tremendous depth. You've got experience. If there's ever a time to be ambitious like this, it would be this with this group, and I think Kevin Young and BYU is doing the right thing by challenging themselves.
As you look at not just what the basketball program is doing, obviously football has got its own unique set of challenges now with although I think, I don't know, I cannot see this roster number getting put to 105 this year. I just feel like they're moving the direction. I know that they're saying it's going to happen, but they don't have numbers yet on what this house settlement looks like. Every program is out there crying foul because they're like, look, we got to have depth. We got to figure out how we're going to be able to keep guys on this roster. I don't know if it's going to be 105 this year or if they're going to be able to make sure that happens. But I was looking at some of these recruiting numbers, which, by the way, they're 2 years behind on like the reporting of what teams are spending on recruiting. In 2021, which was BYU's first year in the Big 12, or the invite year, I guess is what it was.
Yeah,
they spent $700,000 on football recruiting. That's not a good number. That's not a good number at all. Compared to who was number one in the conference at that point was Texas Tech. I think we're starting to see that this sleeping giant Texas Tech has been spending for a long time. Even in 2021, they led the entire conference in recruiting dollars, and they did last year as well. But in the last 2 years, because we don't have 2024 numbers, and I would just assume that they would explode even more, but 2023 numbers, just 2 years after that. So their second year into the league, BYU went from $700,000 that they spend in football recruiting up to $2.2 million, which put them at the middle of the league of spending. Texas Tech was 3.5, but that gets them in the conversation of being a little bit more there. Utah, in comparison, is 2.6. They were number 5 in the conference in 2023. Again, the 2024 numbers, I bet you would have seen go up, and we'd find those out next year at this time. In terms of the spending, not just on NIL money, because that gets the recruiting dollars get lost in the mix, I think. Where does this have to go? Obviously, spending more on recruits and getting the best recruits in is a reason why you saw so many 4-star guys flip and come to BYU after their visits that they took to Provo, and obviously success that the program has had. How do you balance being able to spend a ton of money on the recruiting and still being able to convert that into signing guys?
I don't think you can balance it, Alex. I think you have to pay. You look at the teams, like Ohio State was the most expensive roster in college football last year, and they went on and won the national championship. So there is a direct correlation, not just at the college level, but even in professional sports. Teams that pay oftentimes are teams that win consistently. That you have to invest in that regard. And to your point, with those numbers that you just brought up, I think BYU is. I think that the takeaway here is that the BYU of yesteryear, where you are at the bottom tier of paying coaches, you're at the bottom tier of support staff numbers and all of that, BYU is, I think, woken up and realized you can't operate this way. You have to invest if you want to have success on the field. And football, it's taken a little bit more time than basketball, but both of those programs, I think, are trending in the right direction. And then the hire of Brian Santiago, I think, helps in this cause as well. That dude wants to win. That dude's good at generating revenue and booster interest. And so I think it's just going to keep going up. But to answer your question, you have to be, maybe you don't have to be number one, but you've got to be top 3 in terms of recruiting spend and support spend and staff numbers. That's just the way that it is. I don't think it's a coincidence that in hoops last year, you hire Kevin Young, you pay him a great salary, their support staff, I mean, I don't have the exact number, but it looked like it increased like tenfold. Like they had the largest support staff in the Big 12, just in terms of, you look on the bench and BYU's coaches always outnumbered the opponent coaches. That's investment, that's spend, that's interest, that's all those things. That's what it's going to take to compete year in and year out. And BYU, I think, has finally realized, like, we can't do it the BYU way. We have to do it the way that wins, which is high spend in all of these areas.
Big 12 had their spring meetings last week. I know you guys were all over it, and Mitch being there was awesome. What was your biggest takeaway from that? What are some of the things that you think that impact BYU that stood out to you from everything that was talked about and discussed?
The biggest takeaway was the support for the 5'11" CFP model, which I think is a huge mistake. I hate it. I like the idea of it, guys. I think it is what Brett Yormark said, I think, is true on its face, which is 5'11" is best for the sport so that you can earn your way on the field. The problem is there's no consistent metric or indicator of how to get the best 16 teams. And the fact that you have a college football playoff committee that changes so frequently, not in terms of members, but also just in terms of what matters.
Yeah.
1 year it's quality wins. 1 year it's strength of schedule. 1 year it's who knows what.
Strength of record, strength of schedule, strength of record. Yeah, all these different things
keep moving.
Yeah.
You never, and it never benefits the mid-conferences. It only ever benefits the SEC and the Big Ten. And so I think the blatant support behind that, where there's going to be 11 at-large invitational programs, I think is going to be damaging unless college football can finally figure out some sort of, I don't want to say BCS ranking, but I love what college basketball does. I'm sure you guys do too. Let's get a net ranking system that is equal and fair. It doesn't skew any way. That way there is a great data point to help people pick the top 16 teams. I guess it'd be top 11 because you'd have the 5 conference champions. But without that, like the current model, where it's a committee of people, oftentimes the committee is compromised of people from the SEC and the Big Ten, and the people leading that are ADs from those top 2 conferences. I think that's awful for the Big 12. And I think the focus is on what's good for the game, but really the focus should be on how do we fix college football? How do we incentivize teams to schedule tough in the non-conference? Because that's great for TV, having great non-conference matchups. That's great for ticket sales. That's great for the good of the game. Except there's no incentive to do that because the SEC and the Big Ten are showing we can schedule nobody and then just play our conference games and we'll get the benefit of the doubt. So 5'11" to me is a major concern for the health of college football. And I don't know what you do because the other model sucks too. 4 automatic SEC, 4 automatic Big Ten. I don't like any of the options on the table right now. And I think that was the biggest takeaway. They were just so far behind that 5'11" model. Kalani was behind it. Brian Santiago's behind it. But Yormark's kind of leading that charge. And I don't think it's going to benefit the Big 12 as college football currently works.
Matt Baiamonte, you can hear him on Cougar Sports Saturday every Saturday with Mitch Harper. They talk all things BYU. What's the thing that's going to be in the way the most of BYU's success? Is it as easy on the football field? I mean, this next year, is it as easy as saying if this Jake Retzlaff, trial and litigation ends up not just bleeding into the season, but making him maybe even ineligible, which could be a real possibility as we start to figure out what that's going to look like. If he's not playing quarterback for BYU this year, is this looked at like, oh, they're not going to have a shot this year of being able to finish the way that they did last year?
If he doesn't play at all or he doesn't play some of the games, I don't think that has much barometer on the success of his team. Jake had a good year last year, but it wasn't a great year. He did not have a Sam Leavitt year. I don't think anyone across college football would say that Jake was even a top 4 quarterback in the Big 12. You look at his numbers last year, he was sub 60% completion percentage, and his touchdown to interception ratio was 2-to-1. That is far below the great quarterback play that BYU has seen throughout their illustrious program. Even recent quarterbacks like Zach Wilson, his numbers were outstanding in 2020. Some of that might have been skewed by the quality of the opponents, but nevertheless, he had unbelievable numbers. 70% completion percentage. I think it was like 3 interceptions. And then they go to Jaron Hall, and both of Jaron Hall's years, he was mid 60% or higher completion percentage, and his TD to INT ratio was 4-to-1. And I think he's viewed as a really good quarterback. He's not viewed as an all-time great at BYU. Jake's numbers last year were nowhere even close to those guys. He was an average quarterback. Now, you would hope that going into your senior year, another year as the bona fide starter, all those practice reps, that you would have a significant improvement in those areas. But just in terms of what Jake did last year, he was very middle of the road. There's quarterbacks on this roster that can give you 60% completion percentage and 2-to-1 touchdown to INT ratio. To me, what's going to determine success with BYU football next year is the offensive line. I don't think it's getting enough talk on the drastic change that exists on BYU's offensive line. You have a new starting center in Bruce Mitchell. Now, he got some snaps last year, which are meaningful, but he's new to the job. You have 2 new tackles. You do have Waylon Lapawaho back, which is a big deal on the inside, but it is a new offensive line. There's a lot of moving pieces. I think there's tremendous talent there. And one of those tackles, guys, Andrew Gentry, the transfer from Michigan, he's coming off a big injury. So if that offensive line doesn't come together, I don't care who's playing quarterback, including Jake, it's going to be difficult. If that line can come together, there's tremendous high-end talent and opportunity on that line. Jada is a guy, a transfer from Colorado, who's going to be your left tackle. You know, he got rave reviews last year from coaches as someone who could step in and play. If he can produce like Caleb Etienne did last year, and Gentry can be as good as he was at Michigan when he was healthy, and Bruce Mitchell can replace Connor Pay, and it all comes together, then I don't really care who plays quarterback, because I think this team can compete for a Big 12 championship.
But they will need competency at that position, and if Jake can't play, who on the roster do you think can give them the best chance?
I think it's McKay Hillstead, because McKay is the most like Jake. He is a dual threat athlete. He can run the ball well. He's, one of the standout plays to me from spring football was a McKay Hillstead option keeper where he took it down the left side in the IPF and took it all the way to the house for 70 yards. Like, I think he's faster than Jake in some respects. So he can play the same style of offense. You don't have to change anything with McKay Hillstead. I think he throws a really good football. He had some flashes his freshman year at Utah State, and he's also been at the program for over a year now. So I think McKay Hillstead is the obvious choice to replace Jake if it comes to that. And I would feel confident that you can win with McKay Hillstead. I like his skill set. I like his experience, and I think there are options there behind him. Grayson Bourget, he's started college football games at the Division I level as well. So it's not doom and gloom if Jake can't go. I think they've got options, and, of course, the talented 4-star freshman, which I don't love going to a true freshman right out of the gate, but there's talent and there's options behind Jake that can get the job done.
Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte get together every Saturday for Cougar Sports Saturday, and if you are a BYU fan, you get the best updates when it comes to that, and you'll be able to get those breakdowns from Matt and Mitch every week. And Matt, we appreciate it, man. We hope the summer is going to keep treating you well, and we'll chat with you as we get closer to media days and all those fun things as we get closer to the season, man. Thanks for hanging out.
Anytime. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Matt Baiamonte, everybody.
McKay Hillstead.
I thought maybe Bourget would have been thrown out there.
No love for the Bear?
I just don't think that anybody knows enough about Bear Bachmeier.
I agree.
I think that people just look – because he hasn't taken a college snap, right? Like he was committed to Stanford, right? Isn't
right.
he?
No, he has not played.
So
you have a lot of inexperience, and McKay Hillstead has shown us something about what he can do when he was at Utah State. But he hasn't played since then, and you're gonna throw him out there with this schedule. It's
a lot to ask.
It is a lot to ask.
It doesn't matter who it is; it's gonna be a lot to ask.
Do they have a guy on that roster that's going to help him? And Matt makes a fair point. The quarterback doesn't have to be the star. They wasn't the star last year. There were other guys. But he's got to be good enough, and you can't have problems at that position like you had in 2023, right? You can't have that again because that was 5-7.
It's kind of crazy. It's really crazy to think that BYU would be – now, again, all these guys are working out behind the scenes. You just don't know anything about them.
No, you don't.
You never want to hear anything about the backup if the other guy can go, right?
And you're always excited about them. You're always excited about their potential.
I'm always nervous about whatever just because you haven't seen anything out of them. So, all right. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how this thing shakes out. I mean – BYU's got a lot of questions to answer, and obviously that's a big one. There's a lot of other ones, too. I mean, every program's going through this, right? But the good news is for the BYU football program, they added so many daggum names from the transfer portal and in recruiting. It is by far the best that they've ever done from a recruiting standpoint. Like, not even close, right? Not even close. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. More to go right around the corner. When we return, let's have a conversation around the corner with these two head basketball coaches, Alex Jensen and Kevin Young, both pretty dang new at their posts. Of course, Alex Jensen is the newest. Kevin Young had his exciting year at BYU that first year out, but we'll hear from both of them from the Big 12 media or the Big 12 business meetings that they had last week in Orlando. So stay here. More to go. 97.5 KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
Wow. This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars.
Don't touch that dial.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. JJ and Alex, 97.5 KSL Sports Zone. Alex Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen, thanks for being with us. Hey, every Thursday, we read off the winner of each week, the nominations that come in for the Hercules Hero of the Week. We crown a winner, and they get a prize from Hercules First Federal Credit Union and from Beehive Meals. But what you have to do is you just think about that youth sports volunteer in your neighborhood, somebody who does an awesome job, a team mom, an assistant coach, a head coach, a rec, city employee who just basically takes their job not just seriously, but they look at it like it's a huge thing for the kids, and they treat it that way. Nominate that person, KSLSports.com/contests, and we read those winners off every week. And we appreciate the support that we get from the folks at Beehive Meals and from Hercules First Federal Credit Union for our Hercules Hero of the Week. Nominate them today, KSLSports.com/contests. All right, let's jump in right here to some of the audio that we missed from last week. I mean, of all the things that kind of came through, I'm going to be honest, JJ, we're this type of a market, I feel like. As soon as all of the college football playoff stuff and the rumblings and people getting mad and hurt feelings and blah, blah, blah. And then we get the Brian Santiago and the Mark Harlan conversations that we threw out there. And then Kalani Sitake speaks there at the business meetings. I wanted to make sure we got back to these conversations because these are huge pieces of the puzzle of bringing not just success, but bringing eyeballs to the biggest programs here in the state. I want to start first with Alex Jensen, who's a head coach at University of Utah, of course. And this is a guy who had to take the reins immediately as soon as that NBA season was over. Boom, he gets to Salt Lake, and then boom, he hits the road to these meetings. And I'm sure there's a little bit of that drinking from the fire hose effect. Here's what Alex Jensen had to say at the business meetings for the Big 12 last week.
The whole, I hate to use the word culture, but just getting everything set up. Like, I think we have most of the people in place, but just getting, organizationally where it's all uniform and everybody's on the same page, which takes time. It's not going to be perfect at the beginning, but just, so when our guys show up, we're ready to go, and they know where to go and what to do, and kind of starts when they get on campus. We kind of starts.
What were some of today with these meetings, what were some of the big focus or also areas maybe that stood out to you that maybe were kind of new to you as you continue to acclimate to the college game?
I did a lot of listening because, again, like I said, I'm learning. A lot of fellow coaches have been doing this a long time and had success. But I think, the landscape's changing, and it's kind of, you kind of have to, nobody, I think, knows exactly where it's going to go. So you just, you have to be nimble and kind of predict what's going to happen and get ahead of it.
Any coaches in the league that you've had previous relationships with that maybe have kind of, taken you under your wing or just kind of showing you the ropes of what Big 12 basketball is about?
Well, not yet. I haven't had that much interaction with them. But, I remember when Coach Self was at Tulsa and I was playing at Utah.
Yeah, in the WAC.
Yeah, back in the expanded WAC. And, Kevin Young, and, I coached against him in the D-League, so I've known him for a while, and in the NBA. But, like I said, I'm sure there's something I can learn from all of them. Because they've been doing it, and it's kind of new to me. Even though I've coached in college, the landscape has changed.
Without going through each player, maybe what were some of the points of emphasis or key elements you were looking to hit on in recruiting?
It's been a long time since I recruited, and there wasn't money involved, and I think it kind of worked out that way with my staff and the players I had. I think I wanted guys that wanted to be there, not necessarily because I, paid them the most money or talked them into it. I think, or I sold them on something. But I think we did a good job with that, talking about our vision and our goals and what it's going to be like, which I think was authentic, and and I think we did a good job of guys that wanted to come on my staff and the players and the team.
Just following up on that, you bring up vision. What's maybe the vision you have of the identity on the court, but maybe off the court too with this program?
Yeah, I think it's I'm still learning, and I the thing I've wanted to, I don't want to have a new team every year. I think continuity at any level is underrated. And that was the fun thing about coaching college when I did it 15 years ago, was you got a player for 2-3 years and you got to see him grow, and it also made you better as a coach. But that's what, kind of building a program in a place where people want to come, they can get better, will win, and it's, like I said, I don't want to have a full roster turnover every year.
Pending you speak of rosters, for this year's roster, pending the House NCAA settlement, should have about 4 roster spots. How do you sit on that, and maybe how are you looking to fill those spots? What are you looking for there? This first year is going to be different than I think the years to come. But like I said, I think most of the guys that we've got, they have years of eligibility left, and I think they're, they prefer not to play for 3 or 4 schools in 4 years. So I think their goals and their things align with what we've been telling them what we're about. How excited are you to work with college players and to develop them and to get them to their dreams academically, athletically? How excited are you for that?
I'm excited. It's kind of funny because I haven't been able to get to the basketball part of it quite yet. Building the stuff on the periphery, getting, recruiting kids, signing kids, getting them admitted, and, setting up all of, like I said, the things on the periphery. But yeah, I am actually looking forward to it because I think there's more practice time than you get in the NBA. And you have time to, teach things at a more basic level. But yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to that. Trying to set it up now so I can concentrate more on the basketball when that time comes.
Just your thoughts of Brett Yormark here in the Big 12 commissioner. He's got an NBA background. His time he worked with the Nets for a little bit, but your thoughts on Commissioner Yormark and what he's doing with this league?
I think he's done a great job. We just met, with the media partners. I think he's doing things that other conferences haven't done, and for basketball, there's not a better basketball conference like the Capable, and there's some powerhouses and a lot of teams with a lot of tradition. But I think he's done a good job, and I think it's he's focusing not just on basketball or football, but I think long-term vision. I think he's done a great job.
Alex Jensen, what do you think the biggest challenge is going from the NBA to the collegiate level, JJ? Here's mine. It's a different pick. It's watching Kevin Young have that success and then just assume that, like, oh yeah, come from the NBA and just go straight to the college level. That's a hard transition to make. I think that's what made what Kevin Young did so crazy. But Alex Jensen is no slouch. He wants to concentrate on the basketball. I think he would do well to stay in that, right? And to make sure that all the other stuff, all the business things, let somebody else take care of all that. Get all your people that surround you, have them take care of that stuff, and then you get in front of those guys and you coach the heck out of them.
It used to be recruiting.
Yeah.
But NIL has simplified that a little bit.
Yeah.
Like you identify
That's a great point.
It's kind of like the NBA where you identify players you think are going to be a good fit on your roster, and then you come up with the numbers and see if the numbers work, right? That's what recruiting is becoming in big-time college basketball.
We complicate it by going, can you believe the money part of it? And it's like, actually, it makes it to where we can do our job a little bit better and quicker, easier.
That's
boom.
Comfortable, and that's normal for Alex Jensen coming from the NBA.
Yeah.
The transition he's going to have to make is the game is played differently. And also you're dealing with young people. Like, he has been working with professionals for the last decade plus. Now he's coming back. He's having to deal with young people who are still growing and learning and maturing. And that is a transition that's going to have to be made there. You saw, Coach make that transition down at BYU this past year. And it was a little rocky at first, right?
Yeah.
We got to Christmas, it's like, I don't know about this BYU team. I don't know if Kevin Young's going to get this team to the tournament. And then, boom, something clicked. He figured some things out. They made some changes, and it worked out. So that's going to be the biggest transition for me, I think, is learning how or getting back to working with younger people and understanding them and helping them overcome some of their deficiencies and immaturity and helping them grow.
All right. Let's take a break. We'll have to listen to Kevin Young at a different point here just because we're running out of time on this segment here. But, yeah, it's pretty bonkers to see Alex Jensen and Kevin Young. Like, if you would have said, yeah, those will be your two head coaches at BYU and Utah, respectively, a couple of years ago.
Well, the irony is, no, but you could not find better hires.
No, absolutely.
At both places.
Yeah.
And now because of finances, they were able to make it happen for both because both they're qualified to be head coaches in the NBA, and they're coaching here. Both institutions are very blessed.
That's my favorite quote of the day so far. Hey, both institutions very blessed. Not just one, okay? Blessings abound at both, all right? Let's get it going. Hey, we'll take a break. We'll come back. I've got a top 10 for you, JJ, on the way back here. It's an NFL-related one. You don't want to miss it, so stay here. Stay dialed in. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest name.
You're locked into JJ and Alex with the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. Presented by G2G Bars. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Thanks for being with us on the show. Let's see the biggest news across the world of sports today. Tom Thibodeau, thank you for your service in New York. I was actually thinking about this. Who gets that New York gig?
Michael Malone.
You think Mike Malone's going to be the guy?
Oh, he'll be at the top of the list.
All we do is recycle, refresh, put a new suit on him, put a Knicks pin on that lapel for the press conference, and a guy who was fired with 3 games left in the regular season on a team that was – hey, by the way, if you think that you're going to get treated any better in New York, you're sorely mistaken, Mike Malone. Is the Denver job his only NBA head coaching gig?
No.
I'm trying to think.
San Antonio or Sacramento.
Sacramento, that was the other one. Like 9 other people that are on the coaching carousel. So he knows what it's like to be with an ownership group that just willy-nilly pulls the trigger and fires people. So he's ready.
He was fired after 2 seasons in Sacramento, yeah.
He's equipped. To be in New York. He could be there. So I know Mike Malone's on the list. Is there no other new names out there? No other 30-somethings that we like?
I mean, Johnny Bryant is about to get the Suns job, but maybe they would go back to Bryant because Bryant was an assistant coach there. I think he'll be on the list.
Remember when anything Johnny Bryant did?
Johnny Bryant is listed as a candidate for the job, yes.
Okay. Oh, and Johnny Bryant.
Taylor Jenkins.
By the way, what's Taylor Jenkins going to do?
Rick Brunson.
Oh, my.
Speaking of nepotism.
Yeah. Could you imagine, though, too, wait, who were we just mentioning off? Who are the coaches there? Oh, Taylor Jenkins just lost his job.
Michael Malone.
Taylor
Jenkins fired. Johnny Bryant's an assistant with the Cavaliers.
But see, the Johnny Bryant thing I like a lot because of the rumors that will fly around about Donovan Mitchell. That will surely
Those
follow.
aren't to bed yet?
No.
I don't think Donovan Mitchell's coming to play for the Knicks.
No,
I don't think that's going to happen.
But his tie to Johnny Bryant, right? Wasn't that the thing? He has he's got the connections. It's like
there was a belief that that's why the Knicks hired Johnny Bryant to be the lead assistant, was the thought that it could recruit Donovan Mitchell to New York, and then all of a sudden
those will never go away.
They land Jalen Brunson in free agency, and well, we're moving on.
You get Mike Malone there or Taylor Jenkins, and you get yourself KD. Vegas is going to be going nuts on those odds.
Oh, boy.
Am I wrong? All right.
Championship.
Gosh, Spike Lee, just start making the documentary now, brother. Let's go. We've got a top 10 here. Now, this is a weird one. And I actually don't know what. Sometimes I'll just be thinking of these things before I go to bed, and I'll text myself. And then in the morning I go, what was I thinking? This one I texted myself last night late, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do that. Let's do this. Because I was thinking about NFL teams, and I was thinking about these teams that so many teams who have not won a Super Bowl, Some teams who haven't even played in Super Bowls. And some teams are just downright terrible. So I've got in front of me 1 being the absolute worst, 10 being the 10th worst. I've got a top 10 of the lowest win percentage in the history of the franchises across the NFL that are in the NFL right now.
Wow.
So by win percentage, okay? Because obviously across the board. Hey, what are you Googling over there?
No Googling.
What are you doing?
Nope.
I'm not putting up with this. Yeah, I'm sure you're typing it up. Sure you are.
Nope, no Googling.
I can't see in there. So without further ado, let's get the timer going. Top 10 lowest win percentages in the history of the NFL. On your mark, get set, go.
Jacksonville Jaguars.
Ding.
Cleveland Browns. Houston Texans.
Wait, the Browns was the Texans, you said?
Yeah.
Ding.
Seahawks.
How dare you?
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Ding.
Who else stinks? The Jets. New York Jets.
Ding. I love that. That's all you have to ask. Who else stinks?
Commanders. I know they had a long run of winning, but they've also been bad. Cleveland Browns. Cincinnati Bengals.
Ding.
Minnesota Vikings.
Going to the list.
Chicago Bears. Detroit Lions.
Ding.
Los Angeles Chargers. Not going to be any Raiders. Saints.
Ooh.
Colts.
Ooh.
Titans.
Ding.
Panthers.
Oh, Panthers. I'll give it to him. He had it after the bell, but I'll give it to him.
No,
Ding.
that was in the minute.
Sure. Let me see here. You got the Buccaneers, and they're number 1. Worst winning percentage in the history of the league at 410.
And 2 Super Bowl wins. Go figure.
Jacksonville Jaguars, second worst. The Arizona Cardinals.
I missed the Cardinals. Because they're so irrelevant, I didn't even think of them.
Well, and they have the distinct pleasure of being a franchise since 1920, so they've lost a lot of freaking games. That franchise actually has played the 3rd most amount of games in the history of the league. It goes the Packers, the Bears, and the Cardinals. Those are the 3 who've played the most games in the league. But yes, 3rd worst. The Jets at 4, the Houston Texans at 5, the Atlanta Falcons at 6.
Falcons. I did not say the Falcons.
You're going to kick yourself on the Falcons. You're going to kick yourself on. Oh no, you snuck in the Panthers at the last one.
Did.
The Bengals, the Lions, the Saints, and the Titans. So I think you only missed.
I only missed
2?
the Falcons and, of course, the one you just mentioned before.
The Titans. No,
I got the Titans.
No.
Who did I miss? I missed the Falcons, and I missed the Cardinals.
Oh, the Cardinals. That's right. Yeah. 8 out of 10, not bad. No help from our producer Alex, though. By the way, got 0.
Well, we got to do the EPL for him to chime in.
You want me to do some soccer ones?
This was an easy list for JJ.
Oh, it was an easy list for JJ. Really, you could have just named off all 32 teams in the NFL in a minute, and you would have gotten them all. There you go. That's an interesting technique. I don't know if I like it, but it would have been accepted. All right. Best win percentage of all teams ever. Any guesses?
Oh man, Steelers. No. Cowboys.
Cowboys are number 2. Number 1 are the
Patriots.
Baltimore Ravens.
Oh,
yeah.
So I guess it only counts since
now
2000,
technically
when
because
they moved.
it's 96 is when they became.
They don't count the Browns previously with them, so that makes sense.
So top win percentages: Ravens, Cowboys, Packers, Dolphins, Chiefs, Bears were actually on the list of the most on the best win percentage.
Interesting.
Vikings also on the list. Patriots, Steelers, 49ers to round it off. Your Broncos coming in at 12, by the way. There you go. All right, we'll take the break here. We'll come back. We've got more around the corner. John Wilner, he's going to join us next. John Wilner, of course, writes for the Mercury News, and he's an AP voter, and his college football commentary is of legend. We'll have John Wilner on here with us next. We'll talk about the Big 12. We'll talk about the SEC. We'll talk about the stranglehold the SEC, the Big 10 both have on college football. We'll ask a few questions about what the future of the Pac-12 looks like. So many things to ask him about. Stay here, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Happy Tuesday to you. Thanks for being with us on the program. Oh, we're officially in June, man. That's what's crazy is how quickly we all look and go, oh, man, this gets slow. Because around April and May, end of April, early May, we were going, well, this is going to be awkward. This is going to be an awkward NFL playoffs. This is going to be an awkward this and that. It's just been something after the other, right? And the NHL Stanley Cup Final starts tomorrow. There'll be a lot of interest there. And then the NBA, of course, their finals start up on Thursday between Indiana and Oklahoma City. Interested to see how that one wraps up as well. Our program brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar the perfect protein bar. You can give it a shot today, and, of course, you'll love it. Costco, Holiday Oil, Maverick, Associated Foods, and many other places at the refrigerated section. So there you go. Let's kick off the hour here as we always do with the cut. We'll jump in right here, and we'll get to John Wilner momentarily, college football writer for the Mercury News, and he, of course, is an AP voter, and he has a lot to say about college football. Let's jump in right here with the cut.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And, of course, this portion of the show brought to you by Trajan Wealth, TRAJANwealth.com. Trajan Wealth for all your trusted local needs in retirement. Before we get John Wilner on, I was thinking about whether or not because now the 5+11, everybody was like, I think just okay with initially because it felt better than the 4 auto bids for the SEC, the 4 auto bids for the Big Ten, right? Those were and I wondered if some of that just had to do with, hey, this is just a better option for that. When everybody says that the 5+11 is better for college football, and even Brett Yormark goes, yeah, I don't love the 5+11, but I think it's good for college football. I think it's great for the game. I don't necessarily love that that's the way that you approach this. But the problem is, and we brought this up with Matt Baiamonte as well, is just like this conversation of what's the best option then? Because even the just best 16 or whatever they were calling it is also requisite that you have a college football playoff committee that you feel comfortable with the rankings the way they put it. If it is to go 1 to 16,
you just said the thing. Comfortable with the committee.
I don't know if I'm comfortable with the committee.
Who's comfortable with the committee?
It changes so dang much that you don't know. At some point, as soon as they kind of
take it out of the hands of the committee as much as possible. That's what I'm comfortable with.
Give it back to the computers. I think now the computers learned their lesson, and AI has figured it out.
The BCS was right.
Joining us on the program right now, John Wilner, college football writer for Mercury News, and of course he votes for the AP as well. And we've been chatting about all these things. The 5+11 model, John, everybody initially went, yeah, this is better than the 4 auto bids and the 4 auto bids for the 2 big conferences and then only 2 for the ACC and the Big 12. And then it seems like now everybody's mad about the 5+11 again. Where are we on what the best model is?
It totally depends on who you are and who you ask. Every conference is out for its own self-interest, right? And they're all proposing or supporting the models that they think are going to be best for the schools in their leagues. And that's the bottom line, right? The Big Ten is pushing this revolutionary model where you basically determine who gets the bids before the season even starts because that's the best for the Big Ten. The SEC wants 11 at-larges because they think that's best for them. And I don't know where it's going to get solved, right? Because it basically comes down to the SEC and Big Ten have the authority, but they've got to agree. And they don't agree right now. So, the clock's ticking. I think they have until December where they are obligated to get a format to ESPN. But you know what? It could get pretty close to the deadline the way we're going.
So let's look at this 5+11 model. There's been a lot of people coming out against it. There's also been, Commissioner Brett Yormark for the Big 12 says that's the way to go. And others in the Big 12 have supported it as we focus on the Big 12, obviously, in this market. What are some of the issues and concerns about that 5+11 model that gives a lot of people pause?
Well, I think that it gives the selection committee an immense amount of power, right? They're picking 11 spots. And there are a lot of reasons to be wary of the selection committee. And, I mean, your state is one of the big ones, right? Because I think BYU got totally hosed. And that is a sentiment a lot of people feel could get repeated every year times 11 if the committee is allowed to pick most of the field. So that's the distrust of the selection committee is at the heart of, well, there's three things. If you want to picture what's going on here, at the 40,000-foot view, it's like a triangle. One corner is distrust of the selection committee. Another corner is the need for more money because of revenue sharing. And the third corner is that ESPN isn't on the hook to pay more if they expand the playoff. Mm. So they can't just get more money by expanding the playoff. So, because ESPN doesn't think there's a whole lot of value in, those extra games with double-digit seeds, and they're probably right. So how do you get more value? You get it by improving your regular season inventory. That's what the Big Ten wants to do. They want to create a crossover series with the SEC. They want the play-in games on championship weekend. All those things will get them more money from Fox to help their schools pay the revenue sharing. But if you play those games, you're going to have more losses. And if you have more losses and there's a selection committee, you are at risk of getting hosed. So they want the automatic bids to insulate themselves from the whims of the committee if they add these games to get money for revenue sharing, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep, great explanation.
We're having this bickering match about what the college football playoff is going to look like over the next couple of years. And it might just be a moot conversation because the entire thing might change again in the next, round of free negotiating of TV contracts. It certainly will. The question is what does that look like? What does the next iteration of all this work look like, John, per what you might see in the future as to how this thing goes? Is it going to be a super league? Is it going to be these 32 teams from the Big Ten and the SEC making their own conference? You feel like that every once in a while these powers in the Big Ten and the SEC, Greg Sankey will go, I don't even like the NCAA. No one in my room likes the NCAA. Nobody likes the NCAA. But the reality is what does a college football format look like in 10 years even?
Well, the timeline is based on the media rights contracts. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there are really five that matter. So, and in chronological order, the Big Ten's deal ends in 2030. The Big 12's deal ends in 2031. The CFP deal and March Madness both end in 2032. Then you overlay that with the fact that the ACC's exit fees drop to a manageable number for Clemson and Florida State in 2030. So basically, the first, 24 to 36 months of the next decade is when this whole thing's going to change. Now, the strategy will be set before then, right? Because the Big Ten's going to have to know if they're expanding or forming a super league before the expiration of their media deal. So 28, 29 is when all the behind-the-scenes stuff is going to start to happen. But the actual changeover is going to be in the first couple of years of the next decade because that's when the contracts all expire. It's like this witching hour where all the contracts expire in this very condensed period of time. The CFP contract goes through the spring of 2032. So it's the 2031 season is the last year of the deal that's going to start in 2026. I think it's a 6-season deal with ESPN. We're going to get whatever format they decide for 2026, we're probably going to get for the full cycle, and then it's all going to change.
Yep.
So you've written about this. The Big 12 and the ACC, they have a lot in common, and they're facing this bully in the SEC and Big 10. How can they come together, maybe partner together to combat the power of the SEC and the Big Ten? What can be done?
Well, I don't think that there's a whole lot that can be done, but what little can be accomplished, I think they ought to partner on as much as they can because they are much closer to each other than either of them is to the Big Ten or SEC at this point, right? So, the enemy of your enemy is your friend. And I don't think they should merge. I don't think they can merge. I don't think they're going to give a thought to actually merging. But there are strategies you can come up with, whether it's a scheduling arrangement or other ways, stuff in basketball. They're both great basketball leagues. They've got to explore any option to increase revenue and to increase their competitive access to the CFP and the March Madness as well, but mostly to the CFP. But part of what they're going to have they don't know what the format's going to be yet. So it's hard to kind of go down a path of exploring a strategy if you don't know whether there's going to be 2 guaranteed bids per each of those conferences or if there's going to be 1 and there's 11 at-larges, right? So the thing they can't do, in my opinion, they cannot agree to the 4-4-2-2-1 model. They cannot formalize the fact that they are inferior. If they become inferior on the field and the SEC and the Big Ten gobble up all the bids in a 5-11 model, that's one thing. But to admit in a legal document that you are half the league of the Big Ten or SEC, that is a death blow, I think.
I'd agree.
Yeah, and it's just from a PR perspective, it's that, and then it's also kind of just like
there's no going back. There's no going back at that point.
It's not like they're going to add numbers to you in the years.
And that's what people on social media. There's a lot of criticism of the Big 12 and of Brett Yormark for preferring 5-11, and all those people say, well, 5-11, you may not even get 2 bids. You should take 4-4-2-2 because you're guaranteed to get 2. But it's not about that. The worst thing possible is to admit that you are inferior. That's worse than being inferior.
What's the future of the NCAA tournament look like? Are we going to be calling it the college basketball tournament in the future like we do with the college football playoff? I mean, like when those media rights get done and once everything starts to get worked out and the NCAA at this point has become a joke and this is their biggest, moneymaker anyway, and obviously they're going to try to stick to it as long as they can. But is that the reality of what that's going to look like, or are we going to see the tournament turn into what the college football playoff has turned into?
Well, you're talking to a conspiracy theorist on this.
Oh, I love it.
Because I believe, and I even wrote this at the time, that new tournament, the College Basketball Crown, that Fox sponsored, and it took place between the Elite Eight and the Final Four that 1 week, and it was all in Vegas.
And it kind of snuck up on us, too. Like, they sort of snuck it behind us, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of easy to overlook. I think that is being groomed as the replacement for the NCAA tournament.
Ooh, wow.
Because Fox, remember who Fox's partners are, right? Big 10, Big 12, and the Big East. So, in my opinion, that is basically the leverage point that the power conferences are going to use with everybody else to either completely overhaul the NCAAs, and if the other schools won't agree to it, then they're going to leave, and they're going to turn that 1 week tournament into a 3 week tournament with Fox as the broadcaster instead of Turner and CBS.
That's interesting. Something to keep an eye on. I want to get your thoughts.
But again, that's not till like 2030.
Yeah, that's the same kind of time frame.
Still, though, that's going to sneak up on all of us. I want to get your thoughts on BYU, Utah, and then obviously the Pac-12 situation that involves Utah State. But I'll start with BYU, and you're obviously aware of the news with Jake Gretzloff and what he's going through with the civil lawsuit. We have no idea what his status is with BYU, but does his status impact your belief in BYU as a Big 12 contender this fall?
Yeah, for sure. It does. Absolutely. I mean, part of the reason I think BYU is on the top tier of the Big 12 is because they've got an experienced quarterback. And we saw his growth as a decision maker and a playmaker over the course of the year. Like, I think back to that, the SMU game, and they just stuck with him, and it eventually paid off. If they don't have him on top of the other losses, or if they have him, but he is not focused because he's got personal issues going on, they're potentially a totally different team. The quarterback is the most important position. There's no doubt it would impact their trajectory, I think. I don't even know who, to be honest. haven't even looked. I don't even know who would be their quarterback if he didn't play.
We don't either.
We have names in front of us, and you go, "Oh yeah, I remember that name," and then you don't know exactly what their status is with the team or what they've done or what behind closed doors, what these coaches think about them. It's all up in the air, and it's always hard to try to figure out in the middle of the summer.
The thing is, I do think BYU is in it. If he plays and is ready to go mentally and emotionally, I think BYU is in a great position, right? Because they have usually if you have a breakthrough season, kind of like they did, come out of nowhere like ASU, you've got a trophy and you have the potential for complacency to set in. But BYU still has that hunger because they got boxed out of the Big 12 tiebreaker. So in a way, they are perfectly positioned. Veteran players, a lot of momentum, and they still have the hunger because they didn't get to that final game.
Well, let's talk about the Utah side of things. That's a team that we're not used to watching have a season like they did last year. Kyle Whittingham's not used to having years like that as the head coach there up at Utah. So how does the bounce back happen? And do you see last year being just a massive outlier and Kyle Whittingham certainly in the next year or two likely not going to be the guy anymore up on the hill? Retirement's probably calling, and then Morgan Scalley, inheriting the team is becoming more and more of something on the horizon. So what does Utah do in 2020 or in 2025 in the football season this year?
I would have thought it'd be an outlier, except the injuries have been a two-season issue in a lot of ways, right? And you think after what they went through in 2023 that you'd get a reversion to the mean, but they still had a lot of injuries, especially with Rising. So I don't know. I do know that they have looked at their training and strength and conditioning programs every which way to see if there's anything they can do. But if we assume that they return to average health, then I think they've got a great chance for a good season. I think that the New Mexico plundering that took place is great for them. I think Dampier is really good, and he's going to give them what they haven't had. They're going to simplify the offense. I think Beck's a good fit for what Whittingham likes to do. Obviously, he and Dampier have a good relationship, and we can just assume the defense is going to be pretty good. They'll be hungry. I think that if they are reasonably healthy, they should get back up into 8, 9, 10 wins.
Utah State fans are both thrilled and relieved that they are going to be a part of this new Pac-12, this reinvented Pac-12. You have covered this better than anybody. Nobody's more tied in and more dialed in on the situation than you. What is the latest on the new Pac-12? Who's the next to get an invite? What can we look forward to as this conference comes together in a new way in 2026?
Well, they've got to resolve their mediation with the Mountain West, and there's actually two lawsuits, one of which Utah State is a plaintiff in, right? The exit fee lawsuit from the Mountain West. And once they get that legal stuff solved, I think they'll sign a media rights deal. And then once they get the media rights deal, they will pursue the last football playing member, right? They need one more football playing school. So they got three things. I would imagine all those things are going to get resolved in the next 6 to 8 weeks. And then they'll be ready for July 1st of 2026. Who that last football playing member is, I honestly don't know. There's a lot of support for UNLV. I don't necessarily think UNLV is the right thing. I think having a school in Vegas is, the right strategy, but I don't think UNLV is a good school, right? You want Vegas, but you don't really want UNLV. Yeah. I mean, there's no guarantee they're going to be good. I'm a proponent for the Pac-12 of getting into Texas, whether it's Texas State or North Texas, UTSA, because I think that if you're playing the long game, and that's what they're doing, right? They're collecting chips for the next round of media deals in 2030. You want to be in Texas, right? Football is king in Texas. Those schools have a ton of money. Texas State is located in a booming area between Austin and San Antonio. And that, to me, if you're betting on what team is going to be a lot better in 2030 than they are now, I would take Texas State over UNLV.
John Wilner, you can see his byline there. We, of course, get to read all of his stuff because so much of it has to deal with the schools that are right here in the state of Utah. Mercury News, he's an AP voter. He knows what he's doing, and he's been talking about it for a long time. John, we appreciate you taking some time out here, and we're looking forward to this next football season. We'll chat with you when the fall gets closer.
Thanks very much.
There you go.
Thanks, John.
John Wilner.
One of the best in the business there. Great info.
I don't know if anything gets I'm telling you, though, it is one of these things that is just absolutely nerve-wracking if you are a fan of the Big 12 and these teams in the Big 12 and you do all this work. I guarantee one of the biggest fears that these BYU fans have is that they are on the cusp of the most relevant, being the most relevant that they've ever been. And then in 2031 to have that ripped right back out from under them again and to have to build from square one. And Utah, the same thing. Think about all the money and the work that's been put into these programs.
BYU and Utah should not feel safe in this. Who knows what that's going to look like.
It's crazy that they shouldn't.
There's going to be a breakaway. There's going to be a super conference. Is it just going to be the Big Ten and the SEC merging together? Is it going to be one of those conferences just breaking up and doing their own thing, or some entity that neither BYU or Utah have a control or a say in? Very possible. So there should be no rest or relaxation for either school, either athletic department, because they're going to have to be proactive each and every day, each and every year to maintain their status right now as a power program.
It's a nerve-wracking time. Absolutely bonkers. All right. Let me see here. We got to take a break. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We've got some NFL news, of course, to jump into. Our NFL Blitz is right around the corner. You don't want to miss any of that. Let's get out to the break, and we'll come back, and we'll talk about all things NFL, and then we'll get you to it best and worst. And stay here, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
All the latest news and notes from the league and the locals in the NFL. JJ and Alex bring you the NFL Blitz on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Let me see here. I'm just doing a little, I'm trying to think, were Detlef and Rick Schmidt on the same Pacers teams ever?
Yes.
Did they cross over at some point?
Yeah, Detlef Shrimp played for those good Pacers teams in the 90s after he was
at the
Sonics.
Sonics, yeah. Appreciate your service, by the way. Thank you so much. But yeah, I was wondering if wait
a minute, no.
If there were ever games that Rick Schmidt and Detlef Shrimp were together.
I have that in reverse. I am sorry. He obviously he played with the Pacers until he was 30 years old.
But I thought he came back.
Started with the Mavericks. No, he did not. Played for the Pacers and then the Sonics in the 90s. That's what I'm remembering.
But there was that moment during the Pacers,
sure.
Yeah, because there was that 92-93 season. I think probably that he and Rick Schmidt probably played together.
Yes. So that 92-93 year, that was the last year of Detlef Shrimp in Indiana. Yeah. Dale Davis, Reggie Miller, Sam Mitchell, Pooh Richardson, Rick Schmitz. Rick Schmitz was on that team.
Rick Schmidt, man. Oh, may he rest. Wait.
What? He's still alive?
Okay.
Did you just try to kill Rick Schmitz?
I didn't know if he was. More often than not, you got to guess the other direction on those guys that are in their 70s and that are in their mid-60s. How old is Rick Schmidt? 64, 65?
Rick Smits, how old is he right now? He's 58 years old.
Ooh.
No longer has the mullet, which is unfortunate.
Oh, you know what? And was he a legit 7-footer?
Oh, he was more than that. He was 7'4". He was Mark Eaton size.
Yeah, he's big. Yeah. Because Detlef was almost like 6'11".
Detlef was 6'10".
Yeah,
he was a very big frame.
He was one of the first people that I got an autograph from when I was a kid, and it was when he was with the Mavericks when I was real little. But we were living in Dallas, and I remember seeing him just being like, I've never seen a human that looks this big. All right.
Yeah, he was traded to the Supersonics for Derek McKee and Gerald Patio.
Great deal right there. Jared Patio. Fake person, not a real person. All right. NFL Blitz goes like this. The way too early odds for division winners. This is when we start to look and see what some of these very, very, very aggressive divisions look like.
This.
I do too. So let's look at this one. In the AFC North, it's a little bit of a fool's errand to try to get better odds than the Baltimore Ravens.
Is that race already over? Is there anybody in that division that can legitimately challenge the Ravens?
So you remember how bad the Bengals defense was last year, but they were still a 9-8 team. They're right on the edge, right? The Steelers feel like they've gone backward, and that's what's reflected in the odds.
No quarterback.
No quarterback at the Steelers that we know of yet. The Browns are the worst odds of any fourth-place team currently that I've seen on all these odds, okay? The Browns have no shot, okay? Speaking of a team with no quarterback. Because they have Flacco. They also have Dylan Gabriel. They also have Shadur.
I'd put money on Shadur Sanders starting.
You think he's going to start?
More than 4 games for the Browns.
I don't hate that.
In 2025.
I don't hate that. Mark it down, Alex. He's got him for starting at least a quarter of the season. So that's what your NFC or your AFC North looks like. Your AFC East, good news for Patriots fans. You're moving up the list, but nobody's still touching the Bills, who have beyond the best odds. The Bills 69% chance to win that that division. The Bills, Patriots. Now the Patriots and the Dolphins are the same number, so maybe that's split.
Both at 15.4%.
Yeah. And then the Jets, way off at 5.9% chance. The Houston Texans in the AFC South, as JJ declared, the best division in all of the AFC South. Are the AFC
bad.
South.
If no teams from that division could make the playoffs, they would.
Okay. They
got to take one.
The Houston Texans, they're your only shot of doing something interesting. The Jacksonville Jaguars have the second best odds. The Colts, for the shit,
we love them.
And the Tennessee Titans dead freaking last because we think that Will Levis might be the starting quarterback until Cam Ward takes over. And then he's the guy from now on.
Are they really going to roll Will Levis out there to start the season?
It would just be fun. It would just be fun.
Either way, they're going to stink.
Poor Cam Ward. I think he'll be fine.
Anthony Richardson, freak athlete, can't play quarterback.
And then the AFC West, this is the one I've been waiting for. This is the most hotly contested one in my mind, although the numbers don't necessarily bear this out. The Chiefs are by far the favorites at 53.5%. The Chargers at 25%. Are you offended by that?
No.
And then the Denver
really good.
And then the Denver Broncos just behind that at 22.5%. The Vegas Raiders only at 7.7%. I'm actually shocked. I thought that all those numbers should probably be condensed a little bit more, a little bit closer.
Why? There were 3 of those teams were playoff teams last year, and the Raiders were far from.
I know, but the Raiders.
How'd they get better?
I don't know. Ashton Jeanty?
One guy.
Who's
blocking for him?
Yeah, that's a good question. Look, you got Brock Bowers. You've got Ashton Jeanty. Wait, who's the quarterback?
Geno Smith?
Geno Smith, my guy.
I do like a lot of what the Raiders
Now, that's an upgrade. You know that.
I hate to say it, and I hate to admit it on the radio. I do like what the Raiders are doing, but they're not there yet.
The most contested is the NFC North, which top to bottom, although the Bears they need to prove a few more things. But the Lions with the 41% chance to win that division. The Packers at 27% chance to win it. The Vikings, that's a 15-win team. A 14-win team last year in the regular season, and they are firmly in third place according to this list. Now, you might be like, well, it's because they lost their amazing quarterback, and then you have to check your notes and go, Kirk Cousins, what, for real? Yeah, man, absolutely. So we'll see what the Vikings can do with J.J. McCarthy. All of that is riding on whether or not J.J. McCarthy actually can throw.
How about the Bears' odds of winning that division at 17.9%?
It's almost to 20%, man. Yeah. That's the most tightly contested one that we've seen so far.
Could we see 4 teams from the NFC North in the playoffs? That would be nuts. That means
not.
Only division winners in the other divisions, but it's totally possible.
No, but it's not going to happen. The Bears, I know they have a new coach. They still have the very volatile Caleb Williams at quarterback that they have to dial in still. I don't think he's ready yet.
And I think the Eagles and Commanders make it out of the NFC.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's what I'm saying is like if you try to deny the Eagles and Commanders, that's tough. Speaking of the NFC East, the Eagles, top odds in the NFC East, right behind them, the Washington Commanders at 30% chance. The Dallas Cowboys, wow, in the teens. Congrats, Cowboy fans, at 16.5%. The New York Giants, with the worst odds that we've seen so far of any of the teams in any of the divisions, at 3.5%. Or 3.2%, excuse me.
That is no shot. That's actually 0.1% more than the Browns.
So the Browns...
0.1%.
The Browns and Giants, same boat, not good. And we'll see what happens. The NFC South, the Bucks, 50% chance to win that one. The Falcons, 31% chance to win it. Then it falls off very, very much so. The Carolina Panthers at 20%, and then the Saints, I'm surprised that they even have an 8% chance to win this.
It's only because it's a weak division. The Saints will be the worst team in the NFL this year.
I love these declarations. I love them. This is what I want. And then finally, my NFC West. This one is the one that has actually the tightest between the bottom and the top when it comes to percentage chance. The San Francisco 49ers only a 37.5% chance to win, or 37.7. The Rams are 36.4.
Wow, this is the closest contested
Very close
division based on the analytics.
Yes, Cardinals at almost 20% and the Seahawks at just over 15%. So those are that's the most hotly contested, at least according to Vegas. There you go. All right. We'll see. I love those games. They mean nothing. These numbers mean absolutely nothing because every one of these things could change. The ones that you can kind of guarantee are things like the Saints stinking, the Seahawks not finishing above 4th in that conference, and the Broncos being the 3rd best team in the AFC West. There you go. Those are your only guarantees. Didn't even get a response out of you because you're not going to.
I'm not going to play your game.
Fine. And then our out of the box Raiders fan over here. I mean, sorry, Rams, whatever, some fake LA team.
You've been with them since the St. Louis days, right?
Yeah, you were.
Yes.
Bring
since
back.
Birth.
Remember when BYU's all? We should have the same kind
Big
of
Marshall Falk guy.
Big Torrey Holt guy. I'm trying to think who else.
Greatest show on turf.
Yeah, right. Okay, we'll take a break.
Big Mike Martz guy.
We'll come back. We've got our best and worst next. You don't want to miss it. Stay here, 97.5 EKSL Sports Zone.
Wrapping up the hour with our picks for the best and worst moments on today's show. As JJ and Alex want to hear your best and worst of the day.
But it's a comedy. You see what I'm saying? Hear me out. Tom Thibodeau, a comedy biopic starring Ricky Gervais. That's the only person you can cast.
When I think of Tom Thibodeau, I think comedy.
I know. The thing is that there's a comedian who is a really good actor, a really funny actor. It's Ricky Gervais, and he looks exactly like Tom Thibodeau. We need to pounce on this. I don't know how long they're going to look like each other, all right? But you can make some funny, look, like the last 24 hours, that'd be a funny part of the movie. Come on. Be a really good part of the movie. Ricky Gervais. No, this is where Ricky Gervais steals the show with an Oscar-worthy performance of a serious actor, right? This is where he earns his chops. Gets the serious role. He's not the comedian anymore. Give him this serious role. Let's let him do it. Come on. I'm just saying they look a lot alike.
Ricky Gervais doing drama does not sound fun to me at all.
I know, but guess what? A Tom Thibodeau movie.
That sounds like today's worst. Because it's the worst idea ever.
A Tom Thibodeau movie also sounds terrible. Let's combine these two terrible ideas and make one really great one.
Tom Thibodeau movie. Ben Stiller would want to be in it.
Hey,
and Timothy Chalamet.
will you read my script? It's a Tom Thibodeau biopic. Okay. Oh, my goodness. All right. Yes, best and worst. Brought to you by the good folks at the Doug Smith family of dealerships in American Fork, Spanish Fork, and now in Linden. Kia, Subaru, Chevy, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, and now Mitsubishi. There you go. The best of the best and worst today is Texas Tech, who just reportedly, of course, freshly off of paying $1 million in NIL money to a pitcher that they acquired in the offseason. Texas Tech and their pitcher, who, by the way, I didn't know how this works, but Najari Kennedy is the best pitcher in all of softball. Her ERA is a .79 this year. She's 32-4.
Jeez.
Okay, she has pitched every inning for the Red Raiders so far on their road to a championship, and part of that was going through the four-time champs, right? The four-time national champion. Four consecutive.
They had a 71-game win streak in there.
Not only that, I think somebody showed their record because it's bad. I mean, Oklahoma finally gets that 4-year-in-a-row streak broken. You needed to have a special situation for that to happen. They get it broken, and they cap off over the past 4 years during that run of 4 national championships in a row and up till yesterday. They are 323-28 during that time.
Wow.
They've won 328 and 24 games and only lost 28 in the past 5 seasons. That's a 93.5% win percentage. Not bad. Not bad. So congrats to them, but congrats to Najari Kennedy, who brought her $1 million pitching talent to Texas Tech. And by the way, it freaking paid off. You and I were just talking about this before the show. It's like, guess what? They're on a national stage. $1 million is nothing to be able to get this type of
they couldn't pay
publicity,
for this
man.
Publicity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And beating Oklahoma on the way to do it with her on the mound.
And a lot of momentum for their football team that has high expectations going into this fall.
And the basketball team that's really good already.
A deep NCAA tournament run.
Yes.
Texas Tech is starting to see their money pay off. They have results in the field of play.
Last hour we were talking to, or the beginning of this hour, we were talking to John Wilner, and he goes, get Texas State in there into the new Pac-12.
Yeah.
Get Texas State in there. You know why? It's Texas. And you know what they're doing? Pumping money into that program.
Yep.
It's like a no-name program.
The money is in Texas.
And it's happening. There. It's happening.
Yep.
All right. And then the worst. The worst wasn't Ben Stiller? No, okay. The worst is Max Homa. I don't know if he knows. I mean, this is a name. He just dropped out of the top 60 in the world rankings of golf, which means that he has to do some work to qualify for the U.S. Open. So he has to go win a qualifying tournament. So after the Memorial this past weekend, he stayed in Ohio and played in a tournament to try to qualify for the U.S. Open. He has to win the tournament. It was a two-day event. Max Homa pushed to a 2-hole playoff after those 2 rounds, and he ended up losing. The crazy thing about all this is that he awkwardly did not have a caddy and carried his bag for the 36 holes of the tournament. Well, I haven't carried my own bag for 36 holes in a long time, said Homa, who mysteriously did not want to talk about why his caddy was not there with him. I would assume he's carrying his own bag. There's a little bit of pouting going on, JJ.
Weird.
Max Homa, no caddy, goes to a tournament to qualify for the U.S. Open. Now his only shot is to basically win the RBC Canadian Open.
He's having a tough year.
It's a guy whose name is known. We know who Max Homa is.
Big, yeah.
And he can't get to the U.S. Open, and he's got relationship issues with his caddy. You never want to have those. Ask Tiger Woods. All right. There's your best and worst. We're going to take a break. We'll come back. We've got more to go right around the corner. When we return, just stay here. We got a lot going on. Stay here, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.